It's time for more coaching and coffee talk. Today, my guest is Gerilyn Burnett. Gerilyn is a former Strongwoman competitor. She's a strength and nutrition coach living in Knoxville, Tennessee, that has quite a transformational story of what happened when she first grabbed a barbell and the mental, physical, and spiritual journey that has followed. She always has awesome content on her Instagram, which I'm an avid follower of. And I'm super excited that she agreed to do this today. Gerilyn, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Scott. I'm excited to be here.
So we first met in the Iron Force Athletics online training back before online training was cool, right?
Indeed. I think that was 2013, 2014,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. And that was so special to me because I personally, I was going through a rough time when that happened. And then since connecting with some other people, I found like actually some other people were like having on some rough waters when they joined that group, and it turned into this like very special thing where we all had these great bonds, and everybody actually got stronger and improved. And then now they've gone on to do like some really amazing things.
It has
When you
been
still
really
follow them.
fun
Yeah,
to connect and stay in touch with so many people from that group. It
yeah,
was a blast to be a part of. And yeah, I didn't realize some of the things people were going through until years later sometimes, but I've kept in touch with, I don't know, probably about 10 people in
yeah.
that
That's
group
about
pretty
me too. Yeah,
closely and still following their journeys and
yeah,
getting to work with them from time to time. And it's really exciting. It was a great group.
yeah. And so, I mean, speaking of rough times, I wanted you to go in a bit to your story because you over your Instagram recently, I think last week, you told a little bit about your story, um, and and it's a great, inspiring story of transformation. So I just wanted to get the whole thing, or where did it start from? Really, like in high school, or
I mean, I guess you could say
yeah,
it started from birth, but I'll
oh,
start in
from
high
birth, yeah,
school.
yeah. Well,
How
yeah, it
about
starts
that?
from
I'll
birth.
start in high school. I think we all have things that have happened to us
Yeah,
in, childhood or young adult, adolescence
yeah,
that were maybe traumatic in a lot of ways and things that
yeah,
we've had to work through that we weren't able to process at the time because we were just too young.
yeah,
So how that manifested for me was that in high school, I started acting out. I was very promiscuous, even though I didn't want to be, but I couldn't help myself.
mm,
I got involved with drugs and alcohol first, then drugs in my kind of senior year and freshman year of college. And I have an all or nothing personality. So if I'm going to do something, I mean, we're going all in. We're not just snorting a lot of Coke. We're going to do the whole 8 ball kind of thing.
yeah.
So yeah, that completely wrecked my burgeoning college career.
Yeah.
And yeah, I finished that first semester with a 0.3 GPA. Go big or go home. That's what happens when you don't go to class at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of where I guess I kind of woke up to everything that was happening, that this wasn't a good path to be on, and that I wanted something different for my life, for sure.
It was actually like seeing that grade where you were like, okay, this isn't good, or what?
No, it was everything else in my life that I
Everything
mean,
else.
I had
Okay.
completely destroyed my relationships. Nobody could trust me that was close to me, my friends, my family,
Yeah.
my parents. I got into meth for a little while, which is just a very ugly, insidious thing that does a lot
Yeah.
of damage to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my time was short lived there, but I guess, at first, I have a pretty strong will. And I tried to get clean on my own
Mm,
and my way, that I
yeah.
was just going to willpower this to go away.
Yeah.
And without, addressing any underlying issues, without working with anyone, I just decided to stop using. And I did until about 8 or 9 months later. My mom and I had gone on a medical mission trip to the country of Panama to run a medical
Oh,
clinic for
wow.
2 weeks.
Oh my
Yeah, it
God.
was it was an amazing experience, mountaintop high. And when we got
Yeah.
back about 2 weeks later, I was one of the first people to find my cousin who had committed suicide.
Oh no.
from the effects of drugs. He was paranoid schizophrenic. It was a really awful situation. But that, of course, threw me for a loop, relapsed. I was supposed to start college again that fall, and just everything fell apart.
Mm,
And so I spent the next 6 months again, kind of cleaning up my life,
yeah.
trying to get clean again. And I did. And it was it was fun, but I just still had a lot of thoughts and kind of, I don't think it was PTSD, but just like constant memories plaguing me of
Mm,
things that would happen. Like I was afraid people were after me, like all of these crazy things. So it wasn't until I was in college, back to college again about 6 months later, that I was just really struggling. I couldn't focus. I couldn't study. It was all or nothing, either study everything or have a friend life. And it wasn't
yeah.
until actually went into the counseling center to get a prescription for Adderall because I
Mm,
knew that would make me focus. I must have ADHD.
mm.
There's a problem here. And instead of diagnosing me with ADHD, they recommended I see a counselor. And I was
Yeah.
very distrustful of this.
Yeah.
I did not want to talk to anyone
Yeah.
at all, ever.
Yeah.
But I had some great adult mentor in my life at that time who was kind of like a second mom to me. And she just really encouraged me to just go try it out. Just see, I didn't have to stay. I could just go. And it was an amazing experience. And I did about six
Mm,
months of really intense therapy and
wow.
just kind of facing everything from my past that
Hmm.
had ever plagued me and processing through that and being able to start letting some of that go.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know that we had this in common, or I don't know if you saw the blog where I recently, kind of outed myself as an addict and alcoholic and addict in my history. But I have to say, I went on another 15 years longer than you did, and really, I ended up a heroin addict, and so
Mm,
I wanted to explain that because I'm laughing at the story, but it's laughter of identification, that
sure.
you get, when addicts and alcoholics start talking to each other, those
Sure.
the knowing
Sure.
laughs come out. So, um, yeah. So what? And then from there, you had also mentioned that that you've been drinking a lot in addition to the drugs, and you had gained weight, and you weren't happy with your overall health. And then, was it your brother that introduced you to CrossFit at that point? Was that another turning point?
It was, but even before that, when I got back to college
Mm,
and was getting my life back together, often I think it's common for people to stop using and start eating instead, or
yeah.
because they're not using, anything that they eat just kind
Mm,
of packs on pounds.
yeah.
So to trade kind of one addiction for another in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was in that kind of first 6 months to a year back in college where I I gained like 15 pounds. I
Mm,
was on meth and coke. So I was
yeah.
on the meth coke diet,
Yeah.
was tinier than I'd ever been.
Yeah.
And then I was this balloon person. I actually weigh as much as I do now at 17 weeks pregnant. So that was just, I didn't like it. I wasn't happy with myself. And my solution first was to diet, to exercise, to try to get it off.
Mm,
And I really believe now, knowing what I know now, that my issue had nothing to do with my weight. The issue was all like in my head
mm,
and working through some of those issues that I had in my past. And once I did that, I've had less and less and less problem overeating, binging,
mm.
on again, off again mentality. I'm still very much all or nothing, but it manifests in a different way. And the ups and downs are more like this
Yeah.
instead of like this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing that in the beginning, were able to focus on some of the trauma and some of the issues behind things, because I kind of ended up on the traditional, 12-step recovery route. And I'm actually just starting to look at these traumatic things now, at age
Mm,
54, because they don't always get into that sort of thing. I've just been reading Gabor Mate. Did you know him at all?
I don't think
Where he
so.
really, he's an addiction specialist that really talks about trauma being the root of all addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol or eating or shopping or gambling or whatever it is, that it's some kind of adaptation that we make in order to survive,
Sure.
like impossible, the kind of unbearable pain of whatever emotional trauma we're dealing with, and then, only exactly what you're talking about. He says, only by facing that stuff, does it kind of go away, you know? Um,
Yes. And on that point, I
yeah,
did a 2-week stint in rehab.
yeah,
It was a live-in facility and I walked out. I quit. And this is why.
yeah,
Because I it was a 12-step program
yeah.
and it was good. I didn't identify with identifying as an addict.
Mm,
Like I did that for several years and I know it is an important part in the
mm,
journey for
yeah,
me to have that space where I do say, oh, I have a problem with this. Like this is bad. But I found like the more and I tried it for a couple of years. I would introduce
mm,
myself. I'm Gerilyn the addict.
yeah,
And yet, in those 2 years, the more I identified with being an addict, the more I lived in fear of always
mm,
relapsing again.
ah, okay.
Now, in that time, I also had built an amazing support network that was kind of like what is it with the 12 step? They give you you hook up with a partner, I
Yeah,
think, in the
sponsor or
traditional
something. Yeah.
program. Yes,
Hmm.
your sponsor. Yes. Okay. So I had a whole support network that would
Yeah,
pretty much be like full of sponsors in
yeah,
that
yeah.
way that were looking out for me, that were supporting me, that were there for me in the middle of the night if I needed to call them.
Mm,
And I know that was crucial to this, but I just I couldn't let go of the fact that I didn't want to identify as an addict forever and that wasn't the end. Like it's an important phase for me, but like
yeah,
I couldn't do that. So I let go of it. I'm not an addict anymore and I don't fear ever going back. And I
yeah,
drink now. Well, I don't now. I'm pregnant.
yeah.
But I drink. I've used marijuana in states where it's legal. Like I don't fear going back to that lifestyle now.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
being said, I mean, I'm not going to go in a room full of coke or anything like that.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
just
yeah.
like DBD, don't be dumb.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, I just side note.
Yeah. And yeah, because I was, like recently on the blog, I was when I talked about being an addict. I mean, the reason why I wanted to come out and say, "Hey, I have this in my history," is because I was always like compartmentalizing things. I mean, kind of like the opposite of what you did, really, because I was
Mm,
always like, "Oh no, don't mention this thing." I'm
and I would have
here.
never
I've
known
moved to
unless you said that.
Denmark. I'm a healthy guy. And just forget about the heart attack and you know
Hey, it
but
happens.
yeah. And I was just but it was quite a big decision to actually come forward for me and say, hey,
So courageous.
I'm an addict. I had this in my history, but I wanted to just be like, hey, I'm this is all part of who I am. But it doesn't sound like you it sounds like you're always pretty open about your story and not really compartmentalizing like that.
For good or ill to
Yeah.
anyone that's been involved.
Well, I always think
A
it's
hot
good
mess.
because yeah, I always think it's good because you can help other people, right? I mean, just like the Instagram post that you did. I mean, I'm sure so many people read that and were like, "Oh God, finally something I can identify with besides,
Sure.
deadlifting 120 kilos or whatever else."
We only see the highlights. And I just
Yeah,
want to say that is so courageous of you to share that. And well, just like you said, you've been
yeah, well, thanks.
compartmentalizing it for so
Yeah,
long. I want to honor that for you because I know that was probably really difficult to do and to process through and to decide to make that decision. And it's a really important decision that you made. So I think well done.
oh, thanks. Oh, thank you. Um, Also, I want to pay you a compliment because, of course, like being, a personal trainer and a health coach, I follow so many people on Instagram, and not to, trash talk anybody, but I agree with everything that you post, and it's very rare. I have to say. Usually, I'm like, I see people like, okay, come on, but really, every single thing, I'm just like, yeah, you know, oh yeah,
Little
next one from
ones.
Gerilyn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every single thing I agree with. It's so yeah.
So far.
So yeah.
Gonna surprise you one day. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. That is very kind.
So, but I mean, so that was a bit of like, you know, part of what's going on with like, I guess the you know, the mental and the spiritual journey that you went on, and then you touched the barbell for the first time.
Touch the barbell. Yes. Before that, I had tried, most of this was in an effort to change my body, to lose
Mm,
weight. I had started long distance running because those were the people that were on the covers of the magazines in,
yeah,
what was this, 2007,
yeah,
2008? It was long distance runners, and those were the body tops, even though I don't have that body top. But anyway, none of that
yeah.
mattered to me at the time. So I
Gonna
ran some
get
half
it.
marathons. That's right. That's right. If I just keep working hard enough and try harder, harder,
Yeah.
harder, then it will work eventually. I was teaching spin at my college rec center, spinning 12 hours a day. I mean, 12 hours a week sometimes.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was like 12 hours of spin a week. I would try to do some circuit training and then cut calories. And it just didn't work. Or it didn't work for long. How about that? Like
Yeah.
it worked, and then I would get faint or dizzy and have to eat. And then I couldn't stop myself because my body was starving.
Mm,
So I tried running. I had really great results actually with Chris Ballantyne's original turbulence training program.
mm.
I don't know if you've heard of it. He was
No,
one of the
no, no,
first
no.
people that actually had a program on the internet when you're looking
Okay.
for like exercise program, and it was a
Yeah.
lifting program with dumbbells, and they had a barbell one too, but I didn't know how to use that, so I just stuck with the dumbbell program,
Yeah.
and that was great. But then in the Christmas time of 2008, my brother had just gotten home from Marine boot camp, and he's like, "You got to try this thing." Like, what is it? And he's like, "It's this thing called CrossFit." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we go to this class, and they absolutely destroy me, and I was hooked.
Thank you. May I have another?
Exactly. I
Wow.
was
So
like,
you're
"Oh my
really
goodness."
entry level in CrossFit, because that's right when it's just starting to be
Yeah, it was
affiliates and stuff, right?
3 to 5 years after I started. When it started, like 2001, affiliates started around that time. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, pretty first few affiliates there. And I got back to Knoxville, and there was a CrossFit gym here, and I was so excited. And it was out of this guy named Johnny's garage, and
And
I
did
was one of
you
the
grow up in Knoxville?
I was going to college in Knoxville.
Are you going to call? Okay. And where are
So
you
I'm from a
from originally?
small town in West Tennessee
Oh,
with
West
2
End. You're from
redlets,
Tennessee.
maybe
Okay.
it's 3 now, called Camden, about 3,000 people in the city, or town,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm from.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm, lots of horses, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm in Knoxville in college at UT, and I found this CrossFit gym running out of this guy's garage, and I was the second girl. And the first girl was, or woman was, the owner's girlfriend.
Okay.
And that was like our first kind of taste of competition against each other in
Mm.
this type of setting. And yeah, I mean, I picked up a barbell for the first time, and it was amazing. It was just so I don't know, powerful feeling to just be able to lift your body weight,
Mm.
to be able to sling weight overhead and not die. Like it was like, "Oh, I can do this."
Yeah.
I mean, I'd never dreamed of doing a pull-up before. I had never dreamed of doing any of this before, not because nobody told me I couldn't or anyone told me I couldn't, but just because it wasn't nobody did it around me. So
Yeah.
therefore, I just never had conceived of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was there that I got my first pull-up and worked for that. Johnny, he owns 2 locations now that are much bigger than his garage.
Yeah.
And they always had a strong emphasis on technique in all
Mm.
things, on safety first, on safe progression, on strength before volume and intensity and load. And that was pivotal for me. I mean, it was foundational, especially
Mm.
as CrossFit got going and you start hearing the opposite out of so many boxes.
Mm.
But in 2009, I got certified in CrossFit. I got my first little coaching job while I was finishing up college,
Mm.
and went from there.
And what was your degree for in college? Was it
My degree
related
is
to
actually in
fitness?
psychology.
Oh, psychology. Okay. All right.
Yes. So it was in psychology. I was pre-med. Had no idea what I wanted. I mean, I wanted to go to med school, I thought,
Mm.
but I didn't have any other conception of what, like a healthy lifestyle could be like in that sense. So that was the option: doctor, lawyer, or president. My grandmother always told me. And I didn't want to be president. I didn't want to be a lawyer. Doctor then. That sounds cool.
And how did the love affair with CrossFit unfold, and then you transitioned out of that into Strongwoman, right?
Yes. So
uh,
this was in 2009, 2010. I was a big follower of Rob Wolf and Greg Everett
mm,
and all of those guys from the beginning. And they, I think in 2010, held the Black Box Summit. And it was just to bring some smart programming and progression to CrossFit, to say,
mm,
hey, this doesn't need to be completely random. Let's program some stuff in. And who was it that attended secretly, like as a spy kind of thing?
okay,
That's when Rob Wolf got blacklisted, basically. Rob and Nikki and some other people got
okay.
completely blacklisted from CrossFit.
Oh, I didn't know that he started off as a CrossFit guy.
Rob Wolf?
Rob Wolf, yeah.
Yeah, they had NorCal is like number 3, number 7 of the
Okay,
first
I didn't know
CrossFits.
that. Interesting.
Still is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he had to, yeah, he was blacklisted a long time ago. And that was when I was like, wait a second, these people are
Just trying to help.
doing really, they're doing really amazing things.
Yeah.
They love CrossFit. They're huge advocates. And you're going to blacklist them because they're trying to add to what's going on here, and make things better for people.
Maybe
I
a
had a problem with
sign of
that.
things to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of great ideas. They brought a lot of good stuff to the table. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate that they were blacklisted.
So did seeing that happen kind of turn you off of CrossFit
It
at
did. I
that
kind of
point? Yeah.
started moving away from that. And when we moved to Boston in 2012, I was either going to join a CrossFit or a powerlifting gym.
Mm.
And to be quite frank, we were broker than broke at the time. We had moved
Powerlifting
from,
gym.
yes, exactly. So I did. I chose a powerlifting gym, and one of the guys there was like, "You don't want to compete in powerlifting. Like, if you like CrossFit, you want to compete in strongman." And I was like, "What's that?" I'd never heard of strongman. I mean, we did some like sandbag carries in the CrossFit, but I didn't know
Yeah.
it was like part of strongman. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this thing? And that's how I got introduced to strongman. And I eventually switched gyms to TPS, which is a larger powerlifting strongman gym in Boston.
Okay.
And Murph runs a lot for elite FTS and things like that. So anyway, that's how I got into strongman, and I competed for 3 or 4 years, kind of on again, off again. And it was amazing, and I loved it. And if I wasn't pregnant right now, I'd probably be training for a competition.
Oh, really? You still got some in you?
Well, yes, I do. I think, and I have a good gym like a mile from me now
Oh,
that
nice.
has a lot of strongman equipment.
And
So.
how does the I'm trying to say strong woman. You're saying strong man. I'm trying to be politically correct, you know.
It's fine. You can say strongman. I'm not offended. I don't care. It flows easier.
Strong man.
Obviously
But
not a
how does it
man.
go? Does it go by weight class, the competitions, or
It does
age,
go by
or?
weight class. Yeah. So there is a master's division now as the sport has grown. Thankfully, there's a really large kind of strong woman population, strongman population in the
Yeah.
Northeast.
Okay.
And they're able to do things by weight class and actually have people in all of the weight classes. It's usually 140 and below. Wait, 140. Yes, 140 and below would be lightweight. 140
Okay.
to 160 would be middleweight, and then over 160 would be heavyweight. And if they don't have enough people for each weight class, at least 3, then they will combine. And you
Okay.
have to, essentially, the lightweights are screwed and they have to go heavier.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
So I always, but now there's 2 federations, and some of those weights can change a little bit. I think lightweight is a little bit heavier in the other one. So.
And with strongman, are they doing drug testing, or they're just like,
No.
yeah, whatever?
No, especially in the men's categories, everybody's juicing.
It's actually a buffet table out.
Pretty much. Yep. Yep. Not yet. I mean, they may start, but no.
It
Not
is
even
like a whole different world that people don't understand. I remember one time with the, when I was a member of the like CrossFit Masters group on Facebook, when it was a huge group. Now it got split apart and did some weird things
okay.
after Glassman retired. But it was when I was building my deadlift all the time, and I made a joke about doing smelling salts before a deadlift, and people were like, "Why would you ever do that? That's so unhealthy." I was like, okay, you can't make strong man jokes in a CrossFit group. That's the least of it. The smelling
Right,
salts.
exactly. That's pretty benign, actually. Extremely benign.
Did you use smelling salts or anything like that before big lifts, or were you
I think I've
all
done it
kind
like
of natural?
once,
Yeah.
but I had never really trained for PRs that way. I was the oddball. I trained in like barefoot shoes and I s- did Olympic lifts with the axle because it was easier to get up that way than the continental technique.
Okay.
Are you familiar with it too? So
No, I don't know the Continental, but yeah, talk
okay,
about
so
it
the
because I think
standard
most
clean
people
and
won't know.
jerk, you
Yeah,
can get to your shoulders in one move. The continental, which you do actually need it for heavier weights, but you pretty much have over under grip,
yeah,
over under. You get it up to here.
up
So
to your
you're
like
pulling
top of
up
your
as high as you
ribs,
can,
and you're
then you
bending
flip
backward.
over
Yeah.
and then you pop.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And it didn't feel good to me. I didn't like it. So I
Okay.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
I did a different version and I would clean it up. And somebody's like, "You're going to train Olympic lifts with your axle?" I'm like, "Yeah." Hello. Like, this is the most efficient way to do this. Why would I not do that? And now a lot of people do it and it's like a common thing. But what was the question? Oh, smell. Yeah, I didn't wear belts unless it was a max lift or anything like
Yeah.
that. I rarely used wraps or straps. I just didn't like them. And so
Yeah.
actually, I started using them because I had pain.
Okay.
And somebody's like, "Oh, just put this strap on your wrist and then it's not going to hurt anymore." Well, that didn't sound right to me. I'm like, why don't we solve the reason why it's hurting in the first place
Yeah.
without just going to the chiropractor every single week, twice a week for K tape and all of that, which is a cool thing to do. None of that seemed right to me. So I was the
Yeah.
weirdo that was training without all the fancy equipment and still doing
Yeah.
pretty well actually.
Yeah. No, well, I'm with you there too. I use very little of that stuff. I do use just like the wrist wraps for when I do Olympic lifts, and and then I started using knee wraps for real heavy squats.
Sure.
But yeah, but I've never been a belt person. I've always felt like it cuts off my air, and I don't feel like I can really brace my core as well with a
Agree.
belt. So yeah.
Agree. I've
See, we're
used it
agreeing again,
occasionally, but
Geraldine. It's just the way.
so are you lifting at all right now? I mean, I know you do your ice bath in the morning and your
Yeah,
kettlebells every day.
yeah.
What is your schedule looking like?
Well, I've started, during the pandemic, I started this thing of doing micro workouts, where so I'm training 4 times a day, and I'm pairing 25 kettlebell swings with the what is that one, 73 pounds, whatever it comes out to, 32 kilos. Yeah, I do 25 swings, and then I do like a classic kind of bodybuilding split where I do swings and legs, swings and pulling, swings and pushing, and then I alternate it and do, something a little different for the legs, and maybe if I've done, you know, like horizontal pushing, I do pushing overhead, and if I've done a horizontal row, then I'll do a vertical pull the next time it comes around. And the idea was just to kind of keep myself sane through the pandemic,
Sure.
because I really found that if I stay active throughout the day, I was much less insane. It really helped to
Yes.
get moving. And then this throughout it, I was like, actually, my wife was the first person to like look at me and be like, "You're getting really jacked doing this." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting pretty jacked
Huh,
doing this." And I feel
awesome.
like I'm getting a lot stronger, right? I went very quickly from being able to snatch that 73 kettlebell. I think I started snatching it 3 times,
Okay.
and then I very quickly was doing 20 times, you know,
Nice.
and then lockdown opened a little bit, and I went back to the gym, Butcher's Lab in Copenhagen, and I thought, well, I'll try out some lifts, and I squatted. Um, I can't even know what pounds it is anymore, but I squatted 150 kilos, which
Awesome.
I hadn't done even during Iron Force Athletics. I hadn't squatted that much. And last time I did it was like 7 years ago, and it was one of these horrible looking squats where my butt creeped up first, and then I did
Squat.
kind of a morning. Yeah, it was a squat, good morning kind of squat. It
Yes.
wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty, and I tweaked my lower back when I did it. Um, and this 150 was just like boom, and I'm like
Awesome.
upright, and I'm like feeling good, and I was by myself, which is very rare for me to like do a big lift when I'm by myself. I usually need other people to feed off of and go, okay, here I
Sure.
go. And I need an audience.
This is probably much less volume than you were doing when training CrossFit full time. I'm guessing.
I'm not sure in terms of repetitions, it's more, but in terms of well, I don't know about the overall weight either too, because it really adds up, with the kettlebell swing.
Sure.
Because the thing is, it's there's the weight of the kettlebell, but then
Mm-hmm.
there's also what happens when it's swinging down and you're reversing it into another direction when it's between your legs, and then you
Sure.
got centrifugal force on it. And I don't know, I'm not a physicist, but it weighs more than right than, than the
Sure.
32 kilos at that point. So you really load up there, and and then I also did a hang snatch around then too at Butcher's with 70 kilos, which I think I'd done once before in my life, and it also was very
Awesome.
ugly when I did it. And this was like my mobility improved so much because I think I just have so much less inflammation because I'm moving throughout the day, you know.
Yes.
And then I started thinking, maybe we're not supposed to train for 2 hours and then fall onto the couch like a zombie
Huh.
for the rest of the time.
Hint, hint.
And I started thinking about like, the paleo diet, and like I know you're into too, the ancestral nutrition. And I thought, well, what about ancestral movement? Of course we were moving throughout the day, and that's
Yes.
got to be what's healthier for us. So then I just changed everything. You know what? I'm not going back to the gym. I'm just going to keep on doing kettlebell stuff, keep my kind of gymnastics usable. I still do muscle. If I pass anything, I can do a muscle up on. I do it, and
Sure.
I got rings here, and I got a kettlebell. That's my gym. And but I was surprised that I actually got stronger. Just swinging the kettlebell. So yeah, I mean, I miss the idea of doing a max deadlift or something like that, which I really loved in the past. But now I'm also, since the heart attack, I'm really just thinking, that I'm listening to my body much better. Because also after the heart attack, I built my deadlift back up again. I was like, I'm gonna get as stronger as I was before the heart attack, And then I was like, yeah, and I did that, and I did some CrossFit classes. And I thought, yeah, I still got it. And then I'd come home, I'd take a shower, and I'd sleep for an hour and a half, and then I'd wake up and be a zombie for the rest of the day. And it was,
And you've got a family. You've
yeah,
got work
yeah.
to
I
do, I'm
mean, I got
sure.
small
Like,
kids. I mean, Jesus.
yes.
And then I realized too just how sick I'd become because I was, excuse me, training 6 days a week, and that kind of CrossFit
Yes.
style training and following programs and taking classes on top of the programs just to get a
It's
little bit
almost
extra. And it
impossible
was
to
just, yeah,
recover
yeah,
from.
yeah. I mean, actually, I saw in a post you had, I remember a post you had where you're like, are you doing buffet style training? Where you're like
Yes.
following a program, kind of, and then throwing some CrossFit
And,
classes on top,
and,
and I'm
and
running and I'm exhausted.
it's
And yeah,
always my biggest challenge when coaching CrossFitters. And I do
yeah,
coach some CrossFitters because they want to do my stuff and what they're doing, and at least one other thing too, just to get the entire picture.
yeah,
Like, no, 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 no. We need to do less, not more,
yeah,
for the same or better results. And it seems like you're experiencing that with your simple swings, simple ring work,
totally.
asvaths. You know that you can
Yeah,
walk into a gym anytime and hold your own.
Yeah.
with your strength from that experience.
Yeah, and I have energy throughout the day. That's the thing. I take little breaks. I mean, I'm working on my bachelor's thesis now. I could take little breaks. I'm writing. I have a client. I'm doing some writing. I do another little workout, and and the end of the day comes, and I'm like, hey, I'm still a functioning human
You feel
being.
good. And you know
Yeah.
what? Your lymph tissue, your system that gets rid of all of your toxins, it only flows one way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have its own pump supply. It only flows through movements. That's
Yeah.
the only way we get stuff from our feet back up to, our spleen and our kidneys to get out of our body.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that stuff is just sitting there all day, can be reabsorbed by our tissues. And I think that's what you're experiencing with
Yeah.
moving more frequently throughout the day, for
Yeah,
sure.
totally. Yeah, because I was thinking about you did a post also recently about should I train when I'm sore? Which
Mm,
is a similar thing that's happened when you do that, right? Is just move a bit, get some of these metabolites cleared
yes.
out, and yeah.
Yes.
And I found also moving throughout the day that I have better mobility, like accessible quicker to me,
Yes.
you know, like I
Yes.
don't have this inflammation, in my joints and stuff like that. I was joking with my partner in the website, or I wasn't joking with him. He took a shot at me about how long I used to warm up to do pistol squats. Because I used to warm up for 45 minutes, holding a kettlebell on my knee, getting that dorsiflexion going, loosening up the calves, doing all these band stretches and this and that, and then holding in the pistol position and trying to get everything warmed up, using the massage gun around my knees so I would, blow out the knees, and then I put on real thick, sleeves on my knees for the pistol squats. And now, 2 days ago, so I did my 25 swings. Then I did a squat hold at the bottom, which I do just for like mobility,
Yes.
to work on the bottom of the squat position. And then I just stood up and did 20 pistols without knee sleeves on or anything like that. And I did it throughout the day. Yeah.
That's the goal, I feel like,
Almost no
is
warm
you
up at all
want
at
to
54.
access
Yeah.
all of that without a warm up.
Yeah.
That would be like the end goal, not to have to do all of this stuff, just to
Yeah.
do 10 reps.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really
So you
love
have it
that
in
you're
life,
experiencing
right? It
that.
like makes it
Yes.
makes it makes sense.
Yes.
But just like that kind of simplified approach to you, I remember I wrote you a message one time about, because you were talking about your is it strength first, your program? Oh no, not strength,
Oh, oh my goodness, strong for life.
strong for life. Yeah, strong for life. Yeah, because it was just a real basic movements. And talk about that, because that's also exactly what I do with my clients. I wrote a note to you. That's exactly what I do with my clients, and
Yes.
it's I really believe in that. But let me hear your thoughts on that and describe a bit what it
So
means.
I think there's this mindset that one, more equals better. If something's not working, I need to do more of it to get
Mm,
better results. And two, that we need constant change and entertainment. I think that's been propagated through like um, disrupting your metabolism to confuse it. You need to
mm,
confuse it all the time. So you see all these HIIT classes, whether it's CrossFit or boot camps or whatever, that are just throwing, the whole kitchen sink at you
yeah,
and then expecting something to happen. And yeah, for someone that's deconditioned and has no strength whatsoever, something's going to happen for
yeah,
a few weeks, for a few months, maybe even for a year or two, and then it stops. And it's like, what do you return to when it stops? And it's these
yeah,
basic human motions that you were talking about with kind of ancestral movement. We squat, we bend over, we put our arms in front of our heads, on top, in front, behind, and we can do all of that on one leg or one arm too. Those are your, we can rotate. Those are your basic human movements.
yeah,
And if you go to any strength coach or coach of any kind that is worth anything, in my opinion, I'm a little biased, but they're going to be doing these same motions. You're
yeah,
doing the same thing over and over and over again for the rest of your life at different progressions, at different variations. You know, you might be doing a front squat instead of a back squat, or different kinds of squats, but you're always going to be squatting. You're always going to be split squatting. You're always going to be deadlifting. And the more that we can return to those basics and hone those basics and get better at those basics, that is the path forward, whether you want to get stronger, whether you want bigger muscles, whether you want body composition changes, not constantly confusing your body 24/7.
Yeah.
That's the
And
basics of
you
that.
wrote a bit too, like that's even your go-to for when clients want to lose weight,
Yes,
as you start with these basic strength movements.
always,
Yeah.
always, always. I would say what's changed in the past few years for me with weight loss clients, or everybody in particular, was I'd started way back in the day losing weight with long distance running. And it had been a very slow process that stopped the minute I got injured and had to take a week off
Mm.
or fell off my diet. It's like it was this 5-pound weight loss that I was constantly battling to get beyond. And then I just experienced such dramatic results with moving weight and using the barbell. And I just didn't really care about weight anymore because I was like, oh, let me see if I can lift more and let me get better technique. And that became so much more exciting to have those performance goals than body. And the body changed too. And I don't have to focus on it at all. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is great. So now, so I didn't have anyone do any conditioning. They do like some strongman conditioning or something like that, but otherwise didn't really do a lot of just low and slow heart work or anything like that. And so in the past few years, I've just come to see that if somebody doesn't have that aerobic base to begin with, if they did not come into this with low and slow aerobic movement,
Mm.
increases the size of your left ventricle, which increases how much it can pump, and it lowers your blood pressure and it lowers your resting heart rate. And if
Yeah.
you don't already have those adaptations and you start into high intensity, that can have the opposite effect. Instead of
Mm.
having a good effect for a lot of people, it can cause stress and inflammation and
Yeah.
lead to some kind of stroke risk and things like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so now I do begin with lifting and just focusing on that aerobic conditioning also as a first step.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I forgot to mention too that I started running 3 times a week. This like you're talking about zone 2,
Yep.
running where you're going
Nose, breathe, and
slower
pace.
than
Keep a
you think
conversation.
you should. Yeah, yeah. Very tough
Yes.
for competitive
Slower
people.
than you think you
Because,
should. I think that is the key.
yeah,
Some of my clients call it slogging,
yeah,
that they're actually slogging instead of
yeah,
jogging or running. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you're doing. That's
yeah.
fun. You're doing it right.
Yeah, because I'm, now when I look back at what happened coming up to my heart attack, I had never done that kind of zone 2, by the way. I was a sprinter when I was in high
Mm,
school. So I was always a sprinter, and that's what I was good at. I never did this kind of, slower than you think you ought to aerobic training. And then also got into CrossFit and all that stuff. And so and then I was also for 10 years, we had 3 small kids right after
mhm.
one another, and I was moved to a new country and all this stuff. So of course, stress,
Lots of
and
it.
yeah, lots of it. And then I treated my stress with really stressful workouts, and so it's that thing that you just described, where I'm in a constant state of stress, constant cortisol, release and all this kind of stuff, and constantly exhausted, you know. And
Yes.
also the competitive thing with CrossFit that wasn't so good for me is that I could never say no. Oh, let's
Sure.
do this. Oh, yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll throw down
And I
right
always
after we
wanted to
throw
be the
down.
strongest old guy around, and the old guy that can do this and this and this and this, and it was just
I just
it wasn't
love,
so good for me.
though, your willingness to evolve as things changed for you.
Yeah.
I know that was an incredibly scary experience that you went through, and I'm just so thankful that you're still with us, and I know your family is too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now my mission is I hope I can, like talking with you like this and talking and writing, I hope that I can get other people to pay attention to this stuff before it's almost too late for them, like it
You
was
have a
almost too late
great
for me.
story. You
Yeah.
have an incredible story, and I
Yeah.
love that you're using this for good.
And so now, how many weeks pregnant are you now? Did you say 17?
17.
17. And is this your first
It is my
a child?
first
So what's
geriatric pregnancy at 35.
oh geez.
That's what it's the technical term.
Is that right? Oh God,
Yeah.
what a great vote of confidence,
It's
Western
our
medicine.
it's our running joke.
um, well, what's that been like? Have you started altering your training? Or let's first talk about what your training is like and then how it's been changing as the weeks go by.
Sure. I think first, like many of us, everything changed during pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, just gyms were closed, we're training at home. For a lot of us, that was just really difficult to start that habit to be training at home consistently.
Mm,
So we got into running again, actually, also during the pandemic. We were running 3 to 4 times a week, doing some body weight workouts, and that was amazing. I fell in love with running again in a way
yeah.
that I never thought would happen for me again. And it was great. So we love that. And then when we moved, we stayed with my parents over the summer. And when we moved into this house, I was able to kind of outfit a garage gym here. And
Yeah, you got a pretty good setup, I can notice on Instagram.
it's been great. Yes, I'm so happy. But just again, during pandemic of just needing to be adaptable, things don't look the same. I'm not training 4 days a week. I mean, I train 2 to 3 days a week and then we walk a lot. Like that
Yeah.
is probably our main form. We walk around the neighborhood constantly. So that has been my training schedule for, I guess, the past 6 to 8 months, just probably training 2 to 3 times a week and then walk. And I lift. I mean, I'm lifting with my barbell. I like to do a lot of upper body stuff on the rings. That's still kind of my go-to for upper body.
Mm.
But that's been it. I've got some farmer's handles now, so I can, scratch my strongman itch a little bit. And we've got like a 50-foot driveway, which is about 10 meters, a little bit less than. So it is fantastic. We love it.
Yeah.
That has been my schedule. So when I got pregnant, at first nothing changed. And in fact, I was starting to hit some like chin up PRs again and like get back to my, normal reps that I'd
Yeah.
had before pandemic. And all of a sudden around week 6, 6.5, just like the sickness descended upon me. And I'm just so
Yeah.
thankful going into this experience, knowing everything I know about health and nutrition and like where to find good information, because most of what was on the internet was terrible. And I actually
Uh,
solved a lot of my morning sickness with magnesium, like natural
oh,
calm.
really? Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I was taking a really good chelated magnesium that is very soothing for the nervous system and all of that, but it was the natural calm that like took away my morning sickness. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
interesting.
this is great. Then I was
Yeah.
having a lot of digestive issues, but how that affected my training was I could do anything. It felt better to move. I had to go slower and I only had 30 minutes, which was hard to get in a full workout if you only have 30 minutes. Because after 30 minutes, no matter what I did, if I was doing 100 kettlebell swings or, chin ups all day or just nothing really, that would be the limit. Then I would get sick and go puke. I was like, okay,
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
got 30 minutes. That's what it's going to be like for now. And that was pretty much through the first trimester, but I was still able to train. It was probably about twice a week I would train and then lots of walks around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, for 6 weeks there, it was touch and go. It was pretty rough, but we're at week 17 now. Everything's going better. I can do anything I want to do for as long as I want to do it. The biggest changes I've had to make is that my abs started separating really early. And
Ah,
that's a normal thing that happens during pregnancy. Your abs separate
yeah.
so that, your belly has room to grow. But
Yeah.
what can happen is that connective tissue, that linea alba, it's called, that line down the center that creates that shape for your abs.
Yeah.
That's a piece of fascia, connective tissue. And once that separates, when you're bearing down and putting pressure, it can start to cone. And that's basically your insides kind of pushing out.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not harmful per se, unless you want your abs to come back together afterwards, which I do. Thank you very much. So what can happen is it gets stretched, that connective tissue gets stretched, and then it's much harder for it to come back together. And a lot of women will actually have surgery for it, but I'm
Okay.
trying to prevent all of that if possible.
Yeah.
So around week 8 or 9, I started noticing coning, like
Huh.
during hanging leg lifts and stuff like that. I'm like, what in the world? Like, it's not supposed to happen. Or typically for a lot of people, it does not happen this early, but it
Mm.
can. So I've had to modify stuff based on where I see coning.
Oh,
And
okay.
just last week, I think I started seeing it doing pull-ups. I'm very upset about that. But just I can't push-ups now. Yesterday, push-ups and planks, coning.
Oh,
So now we're finding different ways to,
yeah.
to train there. But that's basically the modifications I've had to make.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not going for PRs. I'm doing like sets of 8 and 10 of things,
Just
and
trying
keeping
to
weight
keep
moderate.
moving. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and you breathe differently. There's no like Valsalva maneuver. You're really trying to keep everything nice and hot so that there is no coning, number one, but then keep oxygen flowing through your body, of course.
Mm.
So breathing is a little different, bracing is a little different, and no PRs or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And a
yeah.
more flexible program. I'm not like, I must do this thing or, the world will fall apart. It's like, what feels good today? I'm going to do lower body. I'm going to squat. I'm going to deadlift. I'm going to do some, split squats or something. And then, the opposite for upper body is how I usually do it.
Yeah. And what happened? I mean, how did you adapt business wise when the pandemic hit? Are you back at the gym now? Or are you still do you train have you trained clients out of your garage there or
I
more
do train
online?
a few clients out of my garage, but when we moved to Knoxville, I just stopped seeing people in person. I was wrecked and tired from getting up at 5 o'clock
Mm.
every day or
Yeah,
four
yeah.
o'clock to see 5:30 clients and then being in bed by 10. So I took a couple years off from in-person clients. And now we've got this garage set up. I do see people. I have a couple college students that I see, and there's actually, I'm going to start going to a guy's house and training him for the summer just to help him with his lifting technique. So I am
Mm.
seeing a few people in person. I missed it. I needed to get my hands on people and be able to reposition and adjust. And I love getting into the nitty gritty of technique and helping people through that progress so they can find their own strength through those foundations. And it's hard to do that online. Most of my clients, 90% of my business is online, and we do what we can, but it's not the same as in person.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you had that online business going before the pandemic, right? So you're kind of were
Did.
set
I
up
was
for the
well
pandemic.
positioned.
Yeah.
Yes, I was already in place for pandemic happening. Yeah, for
Yeah,
about
yeah.
a year and a half full time before pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I also tried to add a lot of online, and I'm going to people's houses too. But now I'm actually not going to go back to the gym. I really
Yeah.
enjoy it this way. And I enjoy getting outside and training and stuff. And just being outside year round. So which I can't believe I never did before. I'm just like, wait a second, I've been going inside like a dusty box.
Right.
For most of my adult life.
Yes.
Breathing who knows what's in this air.
Right.
But yeah,
I love it.
yeah. um what else was I gonna say? Oh, with nutrition, because I know you have do you start off clients when they come to you wanting to lose weight? Do you have a general method with nutrition? I know you identify yourself as ancestral, dieting on the Instagram. Is that the route that you recommend for people in general, or how do you
My
start people
approach
off?
to all things fitness or nutrition is to really get to know the person.
Mm,
What are they already doing? What are their goals? And what are the biggest low hanging fruits in the way to get there?
yeah.
And approach that first. I do come to all things health and weight loss from a health perspective and a
Mm,
nutrition perspective. I just believe when we have appropriate nutrition, that everything else is much easier and feels better, and we have the health to support whatever it is. I feel like excess weight, this is my opinion, is a fire alarm that something else is going on in your body.
mm,
And a lot of people eat really crappy and they're really lean and they never know that they have a problem until they get older, they're diagnosed with diabetes. And they're like, but I'm lean. I never had a problem. So if people, gain excess weight and are able to lose it, like uh, it doesn't feel that way at the time, but it's like, it's a really great thing that your body responds in that way, because it
Mm,
is a signal, like something needs to happen. This
yeah.
is not the natural state of people.
Mm,
Um, I mean, healthy bodies come in all shapes and sizes. I do want to mention that, but
yeah.
from a way, if you want to lose weight, coming at this from a health perspective is going to be my approach every single time. So I'm going to look at what the person's already doing. Where are the big rocks? Like, what are they doing that's really great? And how can we start adding to that and building around that in their day to day? That usually involves some kind of tracking. It's going to be different for every person, whether you're using an app, whether you're taking photos of your food, whether you're writing me an email every day,
Mm,
um, some way of tracking what you're doing. That's great. And start at the pace that they are ready for. For some people, that is, I need to eat a piece of protein the size of my palm
yeah.
3 times a day. Like, we start there. I need to drink 4 glasses of water a day. It's as small or as big as the person is ready for. But yes, I'm always going to come at this from this ancestral perspective. What are we adapted to? What do our bodies thrive on? What is the most nutrient dense way without spending tons and tons of money to get that nutrition? And let's start there, and then we can build.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you again, right across the board.
And I guess the other thing with people who are avid exercisers or CrossFitters, a common thing that I will see is they are severely under eating for their activity level.
Mm,
And for women, that usually shows up as missed periods, really messy periods, like painful, irregular. Hair starts falling out. There's lots of things that can show up for women in
mm,
particular that would signify, that they are under eating, but they don't know that. And so usually they'll treat this like, oh, I'm getting a little fluffy around the middle. That would be true for guys too. I'm fluffy around the middle. I need to exercise more. It's like, no, 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 no. You need like 3 weeks off. That's probably what
yeah.
you need. So we also approach nutrition from that perspective of like, how much can you eat and not gain weight? Let's start there. And then you've got a much bigger nutrition window too, because are you familiar with set point theory, that your body kind of stays around a certain set point no
Yeah.
matter what you eat? For
Yeah.
most people, that's typically true. You've got to like overeat for, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to start seeing some significant changes in your body fat and your body weight. But with that set point theory, you've got a lower end of the range, like your body can survive on this at this weight. And then you've got your upper end. So maybe it's like 1,800 to 2,200 calories for a woman, average size woman, my size. Why wouldn't we eat more if you're not going to have any bad effects from that, and you get more nutrition from that and you feel better too? You're going to be recovering
And you'll
better.
recover from your workouts.
Yes, we want to recover from your workouts. That would be the main goal, and have energy for the rest of your day. So yes, I think everything's better with health and a
Yeah.
barbell.
Yeah. And one, maybe we'll wrap it up with this, but what, having the experience of going through the pregnancy and everything, are you going to pivot into the kind of, you know, maternity rehabilitation training? Do you think?
I am getting certified in that right now,
Are
pregnancy
you
and
are okay?
postpartum.
Yeah.
I am. I mean, it seems more relevant. I kind of feel bad that I haven't done this before. I trained so many pregnant women over the years, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's all been perfectly safe. I just realized that it could have been better. I could have served them in a better way. That being said, I don't think it'll be my main thing, at least not yet. It may in the future, but for now, it will just add to my repertoire
Yeah.
of just helping people get as strong as possible for as long as possible, so they can do pistols in their 80s or 90s, and
Yeah.
live a long, healthy, fabulous life.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Gerilyns. Well, thank you so much for being here today
Thank
and
you. This
talking
is a
with us.
blast.
And yeah, we'll link on here to your Instagram page and your website and everything.
Thank you.
And everybody follow Gerilyn for great tips. And yeah, I'll be following your journey with your pregnancy closely
Woohoo.
on Instagram. Yeah.
Thank you. This is a blast.
See you.